When I was a kid, I lived with my parents in a mountaintop cabin near Springdale, Montana. It wasn't a grand place, but to a child who adored the outdoors, it was a paradise. My days were spent exploring the forest, feeling the sunlight filter through the trees, and breathing in the pine-scented air. The little mountaintop community was close-knit, and my parents trusted that area so much that they'd let me wander from sunrise until after dusk without worry. Those years were filled with adventure, freedom, and safety. But that sense of freedom shattered a week after my 11th birthday. That morning, over breakfast, my dad told me that a circus had set up just outside town, pitching an enormous red and yellow tent near the valley. My face lit up. Springdale didn't offer much excitement, and the promise of a circus sounded like magic. Dad even promised that we'd go as a late birthday gift. The thought of it made me feel like the luckiest kid alive. As soon as I could, I bolted into the forest, running faster than my legs could handle. I was desperate to reach my favorite lookout spot, a massive pine perched on a rocky overhang, where I could catch a glimpse of the circus tent below. But I don't remember much else from that day. The last thing I recall is running through the trees with the sun on my face, full of excitement. Then, nothing. I was told later that I fell from an overhang, dropping 35 feet onto the rocks. It wasn't until dusk until they found me, unconscious and broken. I woke up in the hospital days later, and as I opened my eyes to a wall of darkness, the awful truth settled in. I was blind. A single fall, a snap of a branch, and the world I knew. It vanished into pitch black silence. Years passed, and I thought I adapted to my new world. It was never easy. But by the time I reached 40, I'd finally rebuilt a life I was happy with. I had a steady job at a school for the blind, a few good friends, and my own house. After years of living in the darkness, I'd found stability, comfort, and even contentment. Or so I thought, at least, until this week. It started on Monday. I had one of those truly horrible days at work. Kids were acting up, my boss was a jerk, and the weather was dreadful. As soon as I got home, I was ready to collapse on my bed. I walked in, had a glass of water, and climbed into bed, desperate for sleep to wash away the day. But something felt a bit wrong. The bed was warm, only on one side, as if something had just gotten up. I froze, my hand hovering over the sheets. I brushed it off. Maybe the mattress just retained heat somehow. I eventually drifted to sleep. The next day was even stranger. After work, I settled on the couch to watch TV. Yes, blind people sometimes enjoy TV as well. I was zoning out when I felt something odd, a warmth on my right side, like steady heat. After a moment, I realized it was coming from a lamp at the end of the table. It was on. I don't turn on lights in my house. Why would I? I'm blind. It didn't make sense for any light to be on. Puzzled, I reached over and switched it off, but the unease stayed with me. That night, I walked down the hall towards my bedroom. I nearly broke my nose walking straight into a closed door. I never close my doors. Living alone, I keep everything open so I can navigate by memory. My heart was pounding. As I reached out, felt the doorknob and slowly opened it. Who had closed my door? I was scared, really scared. It felt like the day years ago when I woke up blind, lost in a world I couldn't see. I pulled out my phone, but my hands were shaking so badly that I dropped it. It hit the carpet and bounced, landing somewhere nearby. I dropped to my knees, feeling around, trying to find it. After a few moments, my fingers brushed something solid, but it wasn't my phone. It was soft, cold, and fleshy. The moment I realized I'd touched someone's foot, they pulled it away. I jerked my hand back and scrambled to my feet. The blood pounding in my ears, I could feel them watching me, barely, a few feet away, silent and unmoving. I stood frozen in place, my breath coming in short gasps, and then I backed slowly down the hall. My hands brushed against the wall to guide me. My head was spinning, piecing together a plan. If I could just reach the front door, I could get outside, scream for help, and get the police. Just something to get me out of here. I made it to my bedroom doorway, and as my hand wrapped around the doorframe, I felt it. A soft breath, warm and damp, right on my face. Panicked, I ran down the hall, stumbling over my own feet. adrenaline making my steps wild and uneven. I turned into the kitchen, grabbing the first knife I could feel from the block, swinging it through the air wildly, hoping to ward off whoever or whatever was there. The room felt impossibly still. The only sound was my heavy breathing and the hum of the refrigerator. And then I heard it, a faint, raspy laugh just behind me. I took a shaky step back, my hand fumbling for the doorknob. I had to get out, but in my panic, I'd forgotten the lock. The delay was long enough for me to hear another sound, the metallic scrape of a knife being pulled from the block behind me. I yanked open the door and sprinted to the street, screaming. I barely remember what I said or if anyone heard me, but a woman's voice eventually called out, "Hey there, easy honey. Put the knife down, okay? I'm here to help." Her voice oddly soothing, like gravel grinding under tires. I lowered the knife, my heartbeat settling just a little, but then it hit me. She was barefoot. The way she stepped on the pavement, the slap of her skin against the concrete sounded too familiar. My stomach twisted. She was one of them. My panic returned, and I started screaming again, swinging the knife wildly until I heard the footsteps retreat. Neighbors had finally heard the commotion and called the police. It wasn't long before they arrived, finding me in a complete mess and wild-eyed. The officers swept my house and found them. A pair of squatters hiding in the guest room. They'd apparently been there for weeks, sneaking around my home, watching me as I moved through my daily routine. They told the officers they picked my house because I was blind and thought I'd never notice. My stomach turned, thinking about the times they must have been lurking nearby while I was sleeping, or how they sat in my living room watching me eat dinner, feeling invisible. But there's something else that still bothers me, lingering in the back of my mind. I'm typing all of this through the dictation app. It helps a lot when I want to put my thoughts down. As I'm speaking though, the quiet pauses. When I stop to gather my thoughts, I keep hearing something. It's faint, just barely audible. The soft, steady rhythm of breathing. And I'm beginning to wonder if they really got all of them.